Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So today we are going to be reviewing RWBY Volume 6, Chapter 8, and considering that we're just a few days away from Christmas, or whenever you're watching this, you could pretty much consider this to be a Christmas review for yourselves there, and so hopefully you all will enjoy that. So I just wanted to have a little update before we get into this review that Thursday, there will not be a video due to Christmas and everything of that sort. So that day, I will not have a video due to that. But I'm going to try to have a little Christmas video for everyone out, maybe earlier in the week, like Monday, maybe even on Christmas Day itself. So it'll be a nice little Christmas video for each of you, and hopefully you all will like it. It'll just be a short one, it won't be very long or anything. But so I thought I'd at least do that for you. So sit back, relax. I hope you all enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So we start with everybody at the Atlas base in Argus, and they are not letting Team RWBY through. As we saw in the last episode, at the very end, they close the gates right on them, and as Yang is shouting at the guards, she tells them that you didn't even listen to us or let us explain, and they just pretty much tell Yang and the others that the Argus borders are closed, and that they should just have a good day. And these guys were called Nubucks, and they kind of reminded me of card soldiers from Alice in Wonderland, and they were very goofy and kind of odd acting. And RWBY even makes a statement whenever Blake says they were kind of, and then RWBY just states super weird, which yeah, that's pretty much what they were. They were goofy, they were weird, but this was the comedic aspect of the first part of the episode, which was pretty nice. And so then Crow tries to explain that he is friends with Ironwood, and then they correct him by saying General Ironwood. And so Crow then goes on to state that, well, if you don't believe me, we are here to take Weiss back to her family. And when you see this scene, you can definitely tell that Weiss is not in particular a fan. Then again, we understand why, but I like that they showed that she is very reluctant and not happy about the idea of going back home. I do like her facial expressions during the scene. So the Nubucks look at her, and then they basically say, give us 1 minute. We're going to go get our commanding officer. And they walk off in a weird marching fashion. Now, another thing that I will say about the Nubucks is when they spoke in unison, it actually kind of reminded me of the Dragon Ball series whenever Vegeta or Gogeta would appear. It sounds like the unison of the voice actors actually being the characters, because they have two voices playing as a fused character. So it reminded me a lot of that. So pretty good there on the unison, I'll give them that. So Maria herself says that she knows this individual who's the commanding officer of this base, and so Weiss, Blake, and Yang start asking if she was an acquaintance, a colleague, or an enemy, and she says no to the acquaintance, that they were former colleagues, and that yes, they are enemies. And this only means that more trouble is about to brew up. But we also learn that this Argus base is where Maria actually goes to have her prosthetic eyes actually touched up every 10 years. So I do like that we know where she goes to get them kind of patched up in case there's ever a problem with her prosthetic eyes. So we at least do know a little bit of that. I mean, it's not really a big source of knowledge, but it's something. And so whenever Maria tells them, oh, don't give up hope, she could be dead. And I actually did enjoy that joke. I think that it actually landed pretty well. So that was a plus. And it's good to see that they have humor and some lines that actually can stick. I really do like that. And I'm actually going to talk more about that in a bit in this review. So I'll come back to that. But so as we know how Maria has a relationship with this individual now, we are then introduced to said character, Caroline Cordova. And she is the special operative at this Atlas military base that actually watches over Argus. And I like when she's introduced because she actually calls Maria a witch, and Maria then retorts with she-devil. So I like how she also states that Maria has brought larger contraband this time, because the cashew incident put Maria on the streaming list for life. And then we have RWBY, who's trying to make the situation better by trying to stop Maria from insulting Caroline and tries to get everything back on track so that they can try to get into the Atlas borders. And then we can really see that that isn't actually going to work, considering that Caroline doesn't care to hear what any of them actually have to say, and that none of it really matters. So she then looks over and she even states that she listened to their other friends that came by previously, and that she doesn't care. And I love every scene that Nora does something comedic, I swear. Majority of the time, 9 times out of 10, she says something funny, and then she does something that I really enjoy. I just can't help but enjoy Nora on screen because she's always doing something great. And even in this situation, she talks about how they're not going to go away until they get into Atlas. And yet again, Caroline is basically stating that, no, you're not going to get in. I'm not going to listen to anybody, and I'm going to be that stubborn. And that's just how she is. And the scene whenever they show Caroline talking about the relay tower, talking about the base, it reminds me of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Battle Tendency with von Stroheim, about how German technology is the greatest technology in the entire world. It reminds me of that. And that's how the Atlas military at this point, at least in Argus, is how I see it. So RWBY then tells Caroline about how, yes, we know that it's not Atlas's fault about what happened with the whole fall of Beacon, and then Weiss tries to talk about how nobody is a fan of the idea of Atlas closing its borders or the embargo, but they do need to actually get into Atlas and talk to Ironwood himself, and that he's just worried. And so Caroline then is upset because she does not believe that Ironwood at all is a coward, which is funny because nobody said he was a coward, but you know what? Just let her take things out of context. And she then talks about how everybody is at Atlas's throat, and if they want war, then they'll bring a war. And then she also goes on about how if Weiss has truly come to her senses, then she would be glad to allow Weiss to go back home. But Atlas is not going to take in any of her friends that are of questionable character. Now, when she states this, she looks at Blake, and I'll say this. They're finally tackling more of the fondness for racism. This is something that's been very vague. We've only seen it a few times, like with Cardin, for example, him being racist, and then Roman Torchwick calling them animals in Volume 2. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot of discrimination of the fondness that we really can see, so at least they're tackling it a little bit. But yeah, that was still pretty bad there. I like how Weiss did try to stand up for Blake in that situation, saying, what is that supposed to mean? And then Caroline says, that means we're done here. And she just closes the gates on them. So they're all left outside still, just not going anywhere. And you can definitely tell that Caroline is an obstacle that they are going to have to really overcome and find a way to convince or outsmart her into trying to get to the Atlas border. So then RWBY sticks to what she said at the beginning of the volume, which is that none of them are going to leave Weiss's side. Now, to see that this is reassurance here to let Weiss know that, hey, we're not leaving you. It's not happening. And yeah, it's good to see that RWBY is there for Weiss. At the same time, RWBY also has a mission, but it shows that instead of putting the mission first, the thing is her sticking with Weiss still rather than saying, oh yeah, go ahead, leave, get out of here. It actually shows that there is importance, that her friendship still means more to her than just letting Weiss go and then them trying to still have to find a way into the base. So it's good to see that obviously RWBY cares for her friends. I mean, she always has, so it's not like it's anything that we've needed to really be reassured of, but at least RWBY is there and that she's going to stick by Weiss no matter what. And that none of them are going to abandon Weiss. So that's a good thing. And then we have Crow. And I like where they're going with Crow, because ever since the whole Ozpin situation, Crow has really been cynical, and he has really been cold to each and every situation. I like how they treated him here by him just saying, oh yeah, we basically had our plan slammed in our face and that the gates locked on us, so I'm just going to go out for a drink. So you can tell that his depression is still really brewing, and that to try to feel better, he has to drink it all away. And I like this because Crow's character has developed ever since the Ozpin incident, finding out that what he had really been fighting for was all just a lie, and that this is still something that's bothering him, and to show that at a conflict he is constantly throwing himself into alcoholism. I like seeing this side of Crow because it shows that to feel better, he feels that he has to drink, that there is no hope. And I like seeing that out of Crow now. And then everybody's concerned because Crow is one of the smarter characters to kind of help them out with plans. And since he's now not willing to help and that he's just going to go drink his problems away and not listen to reason at all because RWBY can't get through to him, so that's when Nora comes up with the suggestion of, oh, hey, well, you know what? It's okay. We don't need Crow because we still have Ozpin. He's smart. He's the one who can get us out of the situation. Yeah, you brought up Ozpin. You shouldn't have done that because everybody is still at odds. They still have their issues with Ozpin, especially considering that he acted like a child and ran away rather than actually deciding to confront the issue and stating, oh yes, I lied about things, I kept secrets. Yeah, things still aren't well with Team RWBY alone, and so they go ahead and tell everybody the truth, which is good considering that it shows, hey look, Team RWBY is not going to sit there and lie like Ozpin did, that they are actually trustworthy and that they are not going to withhold any details from their comrades, and that's a plus. So then John punches a wall out of anger. So, hope you brought enough money to pay for that, John, because that's not very nice to punch and crack the wall in your own sister's house. You know, I'm just saying. I hope you, brought enough money to fix that. But everybody is now at odds. Team Juniper is very upset over what they have heard since Team RWBY finally said, hey, this is the whole issue, this is what went on. So Team Juniper takes it within the same sense that Team RWBY did too, and John is very upset, hence the whole punching the wall, and then he says, oh yeah, great idea, come up with plans, guys. And Lyran even states, then what's the point if we can't even kill Salem? So Oscar, which I'll give the guy credit, I actually feel bad for him here. He actually tries to make things better himself. He tries to calm everyone down. And while I've had my issues with Oscar in the past, I really feel like his character hasn't been one to really be worked on, and I feel like they could have given him more in the past. They're starting to do a little bit for him here, and I do like that. But John, there's still more points against him in my book. I still have issues with him so very much. And him actually going after Oscar, even though this is not Oscar's fault, and he is nothing more than an innocent farm boy who got dragged into this not of his own will, yeah, it's not his fault. And then Jean just decides to throw him up against the wall because he believes that, yeah, Ozpin is the enemy, and that all that they've been fighting for has been for nothing. And to him, obviously Pyrrha's death as well is something that he sees happen for nothing. And while I understand his anger, him completely taking it out on Oscar, yeah, I don't agree there. And at the same time, if they were to tell Jean the story, wouldn't you have thought they would have told Jean about how Ozpin just disappeared into Oscar's mind somewhere and they haven't talked to him since? Yeah, I really feel like Jean is just being unreasonable at this point. And obviously Jean attacking Oscar isn't going to make things any better. It's not going to change anything. It's actually going to hurt another individual that's not even Ozpin. So to me, Jean just pinning Oscar up against the wall, yeah, I don't really like the idea of Jean doing that. I mean, yeah, you got anger issues, but work on them. And Jean is... I've had issues with him since Volume 4, and I don't think this helps, but I like how RWBY herself stands up as a leader here in this situation and tries to glue everyone back together, stating that, hey, look, you know, we shouldn't be acting like this, but it's understandable that everybody is upset. So Lyran even states himself that, hey, we just all need some time right now, okay? We need some time to take in things, and Blake herself even states that, yeah, everybody probably just needs time to themselves right now, since this whole Ozpin and Salem issue was brought back up again. And so RWBY is very upset with the situation. She tries to call Crow, and yeah, that doesn't work out, considering that he is just completely phasing out everything just to drink. So yeah, while everybody has their issues, Crow does too. And like I said, I like what they're doing with Crow here. But this angers RWBY, and she throws her scroll because she can't get a hold of him. And then that's when it comes back to Maria. And Maria talks about how she went outside to escape the yelling because who can really blame her? I mean, I wouldn't want to be around that either, to be honest. So then Ruby is talking to Maria about how she needs a plan, but Crow isn't answering and he's off drinking. And if Osmond even were to come back, she doesn't think that she could trust him. Honestly, I wouldn't trust him. Just saying. But that's just me. And so what I like here is that Maria starts to actually talk to Ruby about her silver eyes. Now, I like that Ruby is starting to finally get a story here, that the main character is getting focus. Now, Ruby has been the main character, but there have been times where it feels like she's just been sidelined or just there to be there, and there hasn't really been that much focus. And I think that this is a good moment they needed to have for Ruby's character to actually focus on her a bit more. And Maria herself even tells Ruby that she doesn't give herself enough credit. Ruby thinks this is a compliment, but it actually isn't. And that Maria states, instead, why don't we talk about your silver eyes? So they're getting more to that, which is good. And then we learn a bit more about Maria because Ruby herself didn't really know the full meaning behind a silver-eyed warrior. And so Maria kind of talks about herself and about how her own father was the one to teach her, although Ruby hasn't had anyone since Summer obviously disappeared. And so while Maria talks about how her father taught her, she also states that during an exam, even though she didn't go to the academies, she scored the highest out of any huntsman or huntress. And that's impressive. And the other thing that I like about this is that Maria is mentoring Ruby. I think this is something that Ruby has really needed. And I really like how this is going for Ruby's character. And it's not just that, I like how this is going for Maria, because this opens up more to her character. And we actually get to also learn about her own semblance, and that is reflexes. And what her semblance allows her to do is it allows her to sense whenever somebody's about to make a move or attack, and she can react to it before it's even done. So that's pretty interesting. And I like how she also states that the biggest tool that she had was actually having her training as well as her semblance. And those are the two biggest tools that a huntsman or huntress could have, as well as silver-eyed warriors. And so as they're talking about how they didn't learn much because there wasn't really much to offer, even Maria's own father couldn't learn much about the Silver Eyes, so he was cautious because there was so many coming after their rare bloodline heritage. And Ruby comes to the conclusion that it is Salem. And so Maria also talks about how in the past that the Grimm were created by the God of Darkness. Now, while they were created by the God of Darkness, there was also a magic that was created by the God of Light, and that magic is the light itself, which is the Silver Eyes. It's like whenever he actually attacked, when the Grimm were attacking the God of Light, his light pierced through them and destroyed them all. So it shows you that his magic is actually that of the Silver Eyes. And so that's when Maria tells Ruby that she needs to put her mind in a place that will allow her to access the light and be able to use it when necessary, and that it can be used against the Grimm, and that she will have to have a trial by fire to learn how to do this. And then Ruby says that she doesn't think that that's right because she was able to affect Cinder. And while that happens, Maria then states that maybe there was something there you were not actually seeing. And so at that moment, that's when Yang comes and gets Ruby because Team Ruby needs to talk to her. And so now that everyone, Juniper and Ruby, are together, that's when Blake brings up how Oscar is missing and that he's run off. Because in the scene before Ruby goes outside to try to call Crow, Oscar is very upset over the situation that just took place. And it makes a whole lot of sense. So now, because of this, he has actually run off. That's where the chapter itself then concludes. So, overall, giving my thoughts on everything here. With the first half of this chapter, what I really like is the humor. The humor aspect to Chapter 8 is actually good. It feels like it sticks. See, the problem with Volumes 4 and 5, especially 5, when they try to throw in humor at certain points, it wasn't really good, or it felt forced. It felt like they tried to throw in a joke to sound hilarious, but then the one-liner or the joke just wouldn't stick. Now, if you look back at previous volumes like volumes 1 through 3, the humor was actually at the right moment. It was actually there when it needed to be, and even the one-liners back from volumes 1 through 3 were lines that people would say all the time because it was amusing, it was funny, and it hit the right note when it needed to. And right here within this episode alone, Maria's humor was actually good, and I think that it really hit the note when it needed to. And this is something that I feel like volumes 4 and 5 really failed at, as to where volume 6 itself actually does better at, where it actually hits the notes with the jokes. So I really do actually like how they've learned to write better when it comes to jokes for certain. And then not only that, but after the whole situation of them trying to get into the Argus space, they then switch the tone over. Now, one thing I have actually liked that this volume has done at certain points, it has actually hit the tone pretty well. I think that in this volume, for the most part, when they have shifted the tone, for example, when we go from chapter 6 with the issues of the apathy to chapter 7, whenever we actually start to go into Argus, and then chapter 8 now, where we go from them being at the military base back to learning of Ozpin and all of that for Team Juniper, I think that this has been a very good tone shift. It goes from, we have a very dark chapter, to, oh look, it's actually going to be humorous this time with some lore and some action, to humor and then actually being serious. Now, I think that the tone shift has actually done very well this time. And I also like how they shift into Ruby learning about the Silver Eyes from Maria. I actually like that they were able to shift the tone very well here. And I think that that is something that shows that the writers are learning as they go on, and that they need to keep this up. They need to continue to learn from their mistakes and continue to improve. And as long as they can continue to improve, know what they did wrong in the past, and move forward from it, I think that that will make things better for the future of the story to come along with its tone and everything that they're trying to throw in. So hopefully they will continue to do better here. Now, the next thing I want to look at is actually going to answering more questions. Now that they started doing so with the Silver Eyes, for example, I think this has been a very good improvement, starting to learn more about it, its origin actually coming from the God of Light, as to where the magic itself in the Grimm is from the God of Darkness. I do like this, because the Silver-Eyed magic, in a sense, it is kind of a counter to what the magic is of the God of Darkness. So I do like knowing that. And not only this, but learning of Maria and how she actually learned of her own abilities. That, hey, look, I was a Silver-Eyed warrior too, and my dad taught me. I thought that was a good idea they threw in there. I really like that they did this. And it's good to see Ruby have a mentor character, because I feel like this is something that she's needed. I feel like, although we know Crow has been a mentor to teach her how to actually fight, it's good to actually see her learn something from a character that is wise and someone that is reliable, because Crow himself, his alcohol addiction is his problem, and that does take away a bit of his reliability, because if he feels he needs to drink, then it shows that he's going to put that as a priority. And yeah, it's kind of a problem. But when we look at Maria, Maria herself did not have any association with Ozpin up till actually meeting up with Team RWBY. And I really like that. Not only do I like that for Maria's character, but it actually deviates away from, oh man, so many people are actually involved with Ozpin's character and they worked for him at one time. Either they're still with him or they've betrayed him, whatever. I do like that Maria is her own character. She's done her own thing, and she hasn't been actually to the belt buckle of another character. So I really do like that. And not only this, but she's actually proving to be someone RWBY can relate to, considering that RWBY herself has Silver Eyes, Maria has Silver Eyes, and Maria is very experienced herself because she was at one time a huntress too. So I do actually like that. Now, one thing I'm going to say that I think I don't care for is Jean. He still is racking up points to where I don't care for his character. Now, if you like John, that's fine. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with anybody liking John. He's just not really someone I am caring for. I liked him in volumes 1 through 3, but after 3, when 4 came in, he has become a problem to me, I think, as a character. And when he just throws Oscar up against the wall when if they had told the story correctly, in which you have to guess that they did, then he should have also known that Ozpin himself has been locked away in Oscar's mind, and that they haven't talked to him since he locked himself away. And for him to just attack Oscar, I don't think it was justified. I mean, he's doing nothing but hurting Oscar. He's not really even hurting Ozpin if you think about it, because Ozpin's not present. So that anger issue there does need to be worked with on Jean's character, I think. But at the same time, I do believe that they do have a reason, Team Juniper, for being upset. Because just like Team RWBY, they were upset by hearing the news, and here we are again. Team Juniper feels the same way. They are upset within their own regards. They react however they react. So there's that. And with them needing some time to heal and recover, yeah, I get that as well. So there are some things I liked about this chapter, some things I didn't like, but overall, this chapter I think had way more positives than it did negatives. I think my only issue actually is Jean with this chapter, really. But the thing it did allow me to do is I feel a little more for Oscar now, because he was put into the situation against his own will. It's not like he asked to have another person present within his own mind and taking over his own body at will. It's not like he asked for that. And it's not like he asked to get involved in a war with Salem. So him trying to actually make the situation better, I like that for Oscar. While in the past I don't think that he's been developed very well, this is a moment that I actually felt for his character, and it was actually pretty sad to me. So I'll give them props on that. That actually made me feel for Oscar a little bit. And him running away, yeah, that's actually something he's dealing with now, is the issue of Ozpin and how everybody, while they're going to be angry at Ozpin, he's going to take the hits too. So it's not just going to be Ozpin that's going to be, oh, look, I'm mad at you. He has to hear it as well, and people are going to be mad at Oscar and even potentially just blame him for Ozpin's actions that he has no part of. So, yeah, that actually does make me feel for Oscar. And the other thing that I think needs to be brought up is the whole issue of Cinder. So, she was brought up, and why did the Silver Eyes affect Cinder? Now, I'm going to really talk more about this in another video, but one thing that Volume 4 stated at the beginning in Chapter 1 was that the Silver Eyes affected Cinder because she gained a weakness upon gaining the Maiden Powers. Now, whether this affects the Maiden Powers is one thing to learn, because we don't know that. But she does have a Grim Arm now, and that could have been the other thing too. So, if they decide to retcon Maiden Powers actually being affected by the Silver Eyes, that could be one thing. Either that, or they could try to explain it as to where the glove that Cinder had used that had the Grimby summoned out of it to drain the powers into Cinder's body. Now that could be another thing. They could actually work with something like that and state that that's the reason why it happened, and they could retcon the idea. Now, not all retcons are a good thing. I'm not saying always retcon something to make it in your favor, but this could be a retcon I think that could probably work out if they do it right, or they could give Cinder something that could make her more resistant to the Silver Eyes. So that's something I'm going to really go more into in its own video in the future sometime very soon. But when I look at it though, and thinking about it, this chapter was actually very good for what it was. It may have been a shorter chapter, but it really gave us a lot. So if I had to rate RWBY Volume 6 Chapter 8 Dead End, I would give it an 8 out of 10, because while it did have its good humor, we did learn some things about the characters, such as with the Silver Eyes and Maria and Ruby. I think that was really good to learn more about that. And so they also have an issue of trying to get into the military base to get to Atlas and cross the border. So that'll be another thing, which I think this is where Terracotta is actually going to come in as a way to help, because since she is an engineer for the relay tower, I think that this may actually prove to make use of Terracotta in the plot. And I also think that that would be a really good way to actually have her be used in the plot, so that she can actually help Team RWBY make it to Atlas. So I think that would be a good way to throw her in and make use of her. But overall, yeah, I did actually like the chapter. It gave me some good laughs. I thought that there were some good moments in tone shift. I think it was good overall, and we did learn a little bit more about the lore. But anyways, I'll be back again sometime this week with a short little video, probably sometime earlier into the week. But anyways, let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and share this with your friends if you found this video informative or useful. Well, anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you. I hope you have a good one out there, everybody. And I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, everyone.